Hello friends and everyone, welcome back to Netcode-Hub channel. I am Frederick and I'm happy to have you here today. In this video, we are going to talk about mastering relationship in .NET 8 Entity Framework Core using Fluent API. I've made a video explaining how to map models using conventions and navigation properties. That is the default one. If you want to advance it, that is where you need to use the Fluent API, and that is what you're going to have a look in this video. If you haven't watched the previous one, do check the video description and you're going to find it in there. Before I dive right into this, I do offer coaching sessions to people who are interested in Blazor or .NET technologies, talking about .NET MARI, Blazor Hybrid, Blazor itself, and a Web API. I have an email in the video description. You can write to me through it. Okay, so when you say Fluent API, what actually is it? Fluent API is a way of configuring domain classes and relationship in Entity Framework Core using the model builder class and method chaining. Fluent API can override the default conventions and data annotations and provide more flexibility and control over the database schema. So if we actually watch the previous video, you will see that we use the default convention navigation properties to establish the model relationship. This time around, if you want to actually have a full control over your relationship, that is where you need to use the Fluent API. Let's go to what we did in the previous video. So you can see when we check in our models, we created models to establish relationship, that is a one-to-one, one-to-many, and a many-to-many. So from car company and our model company, we have one-to-one, and as you can see, that is the navigation properties that we did. And now based on this, there's going to be a convention by the EF core when you run migration. So we have one-to-one, and that is this one. When you go to the doctor and patient, we have one-to-many, one doctor and a many patients. So we have a list of patients here in the doctor model. And now when you check the patient, we have made a reference, that's navigation property, and our foreign key in the patient model. And now for student and subject, we made a relationship that is a many-to-many relationship. Many students can have many subjects can also have many students. Okay, and that is what we did. And with the getting access to the many-to-many relationship, whereby it does combine the student subject and now the student, because you know that's where we are having this many-to-many relationship between the student and the subject. EF core does not give direct access to the combined table. So you know when you create many-to-many relationship, it's going to pick the class, the two classes, and I'll add them together and I'll create a virtual table for you. Now this virtual table, you cannot have access to it directly because EF core does not provide any endpoint or any way to have access to it. That is the reason why we need to use the Fluent API. Also, defaultly, when you establish any relationship, the constraint here is in the cascade form, and it means that anytime you delete a parent record, its corresponding child record must also be deleted. Okay, that is a default convention done by the EF core. But in this case, if you want to override it, that is where you also need to use the Fluent API. So that's why I said earlier that when you use the Fluent API, you can have a full access to your model builder, and you can manage your relationship well within your models. And that's what we're going to have a look in this video. Okay, so we are going to use the same model that we created in the previous video to also handle this Fluent API relationship. Okay, so first of all, let's tackle the one-to-one. Now, from the one-to-one, company and now the model. In the one-to-one, you know that the company here, it is a parent or the principal, and now the model here, it is a dependent or the child. So that's why we're making a reference in here. And now the reference that we made here looks like, or it is like, you cannot take note, you cannot add car model properties or record to card model without specifying car company, because the car model depends on the company. So that's the reason why we assign a foreign key to this. Now, after doing this, we need to configure this using the Fluent API. Now, from the Fluent API, we can do that inside the AppDB context class. So we have to go to AppDB context class, and now within this, we're going to override a method in here, and that is exactly what we're going to use to customize this. So type in this override, and you can see we have on model creating. So this is the method that we want to override. This is one-to-one. And our one-to-one relationship is about car company as the parent. So let's say this is a parent. And now we have the car model as the child or dependent. Okay, so we're going to configure this in here. So within the relationship, which one do you want to start? We have to start with the parent, isn't it? Because the parent first before the child. Now the parent here is a car company, so we start from the parent. So this is what we need to do to configure this one-to-one relationship. A model builder has an entity called car company. Car company has one car model, and car model has one car company. That is a one-to-one relationship. Car company has a property in a car model called car company ID, and it is foreign key. Make it as required. This means that you cannot pass car model value, or you cannot add car model data without specifying the value for this car company ID. Now, if I delete the car company ID, all the corresponding data alongside with it should be deleted. So that's why we are using delete behavior.cascade. You can decide to choose here as no action and etc. But for now, we want to get rid of it as soon as the parent get deleted. Alright, so that is it. Now let's talk about the next one, that is a one-to-many relationship. So in here, we are saying that one doctor has many patients, that is one-to-many. And our many patients have one doctor, that is many-to-one. Now a doctor has a key, a foreign key in each of the patients, and now it is known as doctor ID. Before you add a doctor, before you add patients, you must make sure you've included or you provided value for doctor ID. So you make it as required. If I delete the parent, that is a doctor, you want to do nothing to the corresponding records in the patient table. So here we can delete the doctor record, and now the corresponding data in the patient will still remain. We have a look on that. Now that's a one-to-many or many-to-one. So from this angle, it is many-to-one. From this angle here, down here, it is one-to-many. Now let's have a look with the last one, that is many-to-many. So here we say many-to-many. And now with this many-to-many relations, we have the student and we have subject. So we have student in here as a parent, or even this, we have a parent here. They are all parent, they are all children. So we have parent, student, and we have subject. So before we can actually specify configuration here, we must create our the virtual table in this. Using the Fluent API, we can have access to our own customizable table. So let's get this created. About how to do this here is we're going to combine the name of the two tables. So you can see from the parent to the child, or from one to one. We have students, as you can see from here. Then we have what? Not students, yeah, student and a subject. So you're going to have student subject table. So let's go in then and create a module to handle that. Let's add a class to this. And now with this class, we're going to say student subject. So student subject, we are going to establish the relationship in here. So you're going to write prop. Then we have student. Then we say this is student. Then we have the foreign key. So you're going to have student ID. Student ID. Okay. So that's the foreign key. As soon as we add the subject, then they become composite key, because you're going to have 2 or more primary keys in a table. So we have the next one. Maybe we can just copy this and paste it. Now we can edit this, making it simple. Okay, so here we have subject. And what do you think? We're going to have the same subject in here. Then instead of the student, you're going to have subject ID. So these are the composite keys. You know, these are primary keys for each of the various tables. Okay, so we have student subject, combination of the 2 tables. We have them linked up in here. We have the primary keys stated as composite keys in here. So in this, we are going to handle the many-to-many relationship between the student and now the subject. Many students can have many subjects, and many subjects can also have many students. So in here, we have a student model, and you can see we have to establish a relationship, many-to-many relationship in here. And before we do that, we have to create the 2 tables here. So you can see we have the first model for student, and we have the subject for the second model. So within the convention, it's going to create a virtual table. But using the Fluent API, we can create it ourselves, okay? So we have our student and our subject. Now we pick the student first, and we're going to assign the subject to it. So student subject, we're going to create a model for that, okay? So we go to the models folder, and we create a new student subject model. And in here, we are adding the student and the student ID, the subject and the subject ID. This becomes the composite key. We have 2 primary keys in one table. So we have 2 composite keys. Once we're done with this, we call it our student subject. Now we have to reference the student subject in here as an I collection of student subject. Then we call it student subject. We have to make a copy of this and also paste it onto the subject and call the same student subject. When we are done, then we go to the AppDB context. We're going to configure our configuration in there. So here, since we have a composite key, we have to initialize them in here. So this entity, which is the student subject model, it has 2 keys. What are these keys? They are the student ID and the composite, that is the student subject. Subject ID and student ID. These are the composite key. Now when we are done, we are going to configure them one after the other. So first we start with the student. Now student has many student subject. That is a combination of a list of the student and the subject. It has a primary key in it called student ID. It is required. And if I delete a data record against this, I do not want to perform any action. So I want to maintain the corresponding data. I do same thing to the subject. And the subject also has many of the student subject. It has a special key, and that's another foreign key as subject ID. It is required, and if I delete it, nothing will happen. Okay, so this is what we need to actually do it. This is a little bit complex than one-to-many and many-to-one. So that's the way to configure this. So these are the Fluent API configuration, and now here you can see we can have hand over the model builder. We can configure it and suit what we want. Okay, so now we save this in here. Then we are going to apply migration to this and check it out. You're going to see how these tables are going to be modified in here. Okay, but before that, I have the database created. I'm going to delete it. Maybe let me take you through what we did from this model. So you can see from the car model, you create a car company, then in a one-to-one, so you have to reference it in here. And from the car model 2, you have to make a reference. Since it's a chart, we need to specify the parent ID as foreign key. We came to doctor and a patient. So doctor is a one-to-many. So there's a parent in here, and as you can see, you make a reference as a list. You go back to the doctor or the patient, and then you're going to provide a doctor with an ID, making it as a primary key, or making it as a compulsory for this patient to be added, and add the doctor ID as well. Okay, and now we came to this many-to-many, that's the student and our subject. Okay, so SQL Server, I have a database in here. Open this, and that is a test DB, so I'm going to remove this. Oh, that's the EF core DB. So yeah, so this one, I'm going to remove this. Removed. Now let's go to Let's see if that is what we deleted. Yeah, that is this one. So the migration tool, we are going to remove the migration. Now let's build the project in here, and now we're going to apply new migration once it is done. Alright, so bricks are seeded. Now let's apply migration to this. So we're going to have add migration. This will be the first one. Okay, so the file is now created. We have car companies, that's the first one, doctor table, student table, subject, and now we have student subject, car models, patient. Now you see how student subject table. Okay, in that you have two composite keys, and these are the two composite keys, student ID and the student subject ID. In that you have these are the constraints in here, as you can see. We have them specified in here. Okay, then we are going to apply or update database. Alright, so this is done. Now since we have a controller and everything ready, we can just run this app and check it out. Okay, so let's see. Then we have a company. So company here, try this out. And it's still, this is going to work as the default one. So company name here, we have Toyota. This is a company. We execute this, we get this added to a database. So saved. We can add, I added Kantanka in here. And we have two models, two companies. Let's add models to this. Since it is 1-to-1, it means one model to one company. And now we have company ID of one Toyota. And I'm going to say this is VIT. So save this being added. Now if I add it again, the same thing, there's going to be an issue here. Yes, because 1-to-1, it has been assigned already. So I have to make here 2. And now this here, it is Abronima. So that is for 2 Kantanka. I'm going to assign this. Save. If I click on it again, you're going to have an issue here. So we are done with this. It is working. Now when you get to test models, we can get all of these models in here. So we have car company ID. So as you can see from here, talking about we're getting car models. We did not include. So maybe we can quickly go in there and I include this. Let's go to the repo. And now from this repo, we are getting the car models. Okay, so the car models, we got a car company, we cannot include anything because we did not include it. And now from the car models, that is where we can include the parent. So dot include. Then we need company. So dot company, we can include this. Now when we save this, and I'll check this out. Let's see if this gets refreshed. Now from the models, we can just get execute. And you're going to have access to, so we have this cyclic error. We can just quickly go to car models. Go to the car models where you have the list in the car company as a parent. We have to, so we have this model car company. And we have this car model. So let's initialize JSON ignore on top. Let's save this. Then let's check this out again and see if this is going to work. Yeah, so we have the car company. This is a VIT, is a model from Toyota, and the company ID is 1. Abronima is a model from Kantanka, and on the ID here it is 2. So we have this and it is working as expected. We can also add it. When you go to get company, we can execute this, and from here we have the ID and we have the name. So we need not to include because you do not have any reference made in here. Okay, so we have the 2 models in here. Since this is a parent, this can exist without the model, but the model cannot without this. Okay, so that is it for this one. Now let's go to the doctor too, and there's a one-to-many. So one doctor, we can add this. So we have Frederick. That is a doctor, programming doctor. Okay, so you have it saved. We can also have only this Asante here. That is it. Let's execute this. We can have only Fred. Execute this. You see, so it's saved. Now we're down here. Let's go and add patient. So for patient, you need to provide an ID. So this patient of Netcode. And now the doctor ID here, if you provide 0, see what happens. You're going to have an error here. We need to provide ID. And we can assign one doctor to many because it is one-to-many. Okay? This is Netcode. If I only write the Netcode and I click on execute, it's going to be saved. Let me just make the next one. So Asante here, a doctor ID of 1 is to get saved. So now you're going to change this to your name. Now your name, we change doctor ID to 2. And now check it out. If it is working, we can have John as a patient, doctor ID of 3. And now check it out. It is there, saved. We can have Jason, then doctor ID of 3 again. Now it is saved, isn't it? Now let's go in there and I retrieve the doctors or the patient info or the list. So get patient, include this. Since we included the doctors, you see we have the doctor ID. And as you can see that the doctor name Frederick Asante is appearing more than once because here it is one-to-many. It means one doctor can be assigned to many patients. So first patient is Netcode-Hub. It has Frederick Asante as doctor. Second has Netcode. It has the same Frederick Asante as doctor. The third is Asante as the name, patient. And it also has the same thing. So you can see doctor ID 1, 1, 1. Yeah, so 3. So as you can see from the next one, you have your name and then Asante, John, and then Frederick, and now Jason and Frederick. So you can see that here we have one-to-many and now many-to-one. We can add data to it. We can also retrieve data from this as well. Okay, now let's go to the last one. That is a many-to-many. Now when you go to the doctors too, you can also, this is post, get doctors, and here we're getting only doctors. Okay, so when we check the code from the repository, we have get doctors, and we need not to include patient because here there's no patient here. We include patient to the patient. We include doctors to the patient because here they did not create. It is one-to-many. So this is 1 and then this is many. So we have to put the include in here. Okay. Now let's see. From the student, we can add student to this. Let's check it out. So here we have student. Let's add student. So check this out. Now we made this as null. Did we do that? Student supposed to be null. That is it. Subject also null. Fine. Now let's check it out from here. So we can remove all this from here. Okay. Now after that, you can see we need to provide subject ID. Now we are in the student subject ID. So first of all, we need to fill in the subject ID first, the student subject. It is a table that we need to fill first. And now when we are done, we can provide values to this. If not, let's pass in the student name as Fred. Then the subject ID is 0. Click on execute. And now let's see. You can see it is required. So let's see. We have to. Maybe we can remove this from here. Okay. Execute this. Okay, so this is saved. We have subject or student ID 0. And now this is saved. Now let's see. Let's go to the subject. Try this out. Let's remove all this. Okay, so you can see that here it is coming from this. So we can pass in the subject as maybe science. Click on execute. Now this is also saved. You see? Now let's click on get subject and student. So get subject. Now check it out. You see we have the subject at science, but I do not have student subject. Okay? Because we did not provide any value to this. Now let's see this one. Get student. Execute this. Now also we have the student name. We're not having the student subject. Okay. So in order to do this, we need to add data to this. And how do we add data? We have student ID 1. We have subject ID 1. So based on that data, that's where we can add to the student subject list. Okay. Let's add more student to this. So let's see student 1. I have Frederick. I have Netcode. And you can decide to remove this because it is not yet saved. We need only the student name. Click on execute, saved. And now let's see. Let's add that one. John. Let's add this. James. Okay, so you have a link. I think 4 or 5. Get student. So we have about 1 up to 4. Okay, good. Now let's see. Let's add 4 subjects to this as well. Let's go. We have science already added. We'll talk about English. English as a language. We can add this. We can have French. Then you can have maybe Arabic. So we have 4 now. Let's check it out. So click on get subjects. Execute this. We also have 4, isn't it? Good. Now let's go in there and now add. But before we do that, we need to create a model to handle this. So we go to the solution, and now in here we have we need to create a DTO to handle this. So I'm going to create a folder here. Let's stop this first. So in here, we are going to create a model to handle this. Now that's all we need to do. Right click on the models and now add a new class. So here we're going to say it is. What name should we even give it to this? Okay. Let's say this is a test model. Now the test model, we are having and the ID. So this is student ID. Okay. Then we can have the next one as subject ID. Subject ID. Now let's save this. Let's come to the repo. And now we're going to add one here. So we say this is public async task. So add student and subjects. And now we have this test and it is test. So in here we're gonna say that await, not even await, appdb contest dot, then we didn't have student subject here dot add. So what are we adding? We are adding test. So why are we having this? You see, because we need to provide this, not what we want. We need student subject. So we can create new. We can say that this is equal to new, then student subject. Then we can specify. You know, here we have student model. We are not providing student model because we have it already. We have subject. We are not providing subject. We have already. So what you need to do here is we provide student ID. Then we assign this equal to this test coming in dot student ID. You see? Then the next one here, we have the next one that needs to provide a subject ID. Now we are not providing this because when we check this, we assign it as null. Student subject, we see this is null. So it means you can add data to this without specifying the values for this. If you don't do this, you're going to have an error here. Take note. So we need not to make this as null and to make this work. Okay. So once we are done with this, we can now save this. Then let's await appdb context.save changes async. Okay. So you do this, and let's create a controller to handle this. So you go to the solution, you go to test solution, test controller, and now with this, we're going to have access to post and now get. So the first one here, it is get. We can, let's make this as post. And now that is student subject. So student subject, okay. Then here we can talk about student subject also. Let's make this in caps. And now it needs a module known as test. And now we have to pass in the test in here. Then we say add student subject, then pass in the test. So dot add student and subject. Now this needs, it is saying that I cannot convert from void to this. Yes, so we do not need to. This is a void type. So it tells you that here you must have this in here. So you can return. Okay, so saved. Okay. So that is what we want. Now when it comes to the get, do you have to get it from here or we can get from this? Okay, we can get from the table. So let's get from this table. And this is get. So here it is get student subject. Get student subject. And we can just copy this. Okay. So get student subject. And now return okay repository.get subject. We did not include the method in here. So when you go to repository, we have to get a method here to handle that. We can say public async task, and this is list of student subjects. You see, so student subject, then there must be an opening here, to a period. Student subject must be in uppercase. Okay, then let's say get student subject. Okay, so in this we can just point this up to await appdb context dot student subject dot here to list async. Can we include, because student subject contains the student and also subject, so dot include student, and now you can also include a subject. So let me put it down here. So after student, we also want to include again then subject, then dot to list async. Okay, so that is what you want to do. We get it as a list, then we need to terminate this. Okay, or we can actually put this in a line like this, vertical coding. Well, we can try this today. Okay, so we have this, and when you go to the controller, let's see what we can do from the controller. Instead of this, we're going to .get student subject. That's fine. Let's run this and check it out. So you can see from here that we've added data in here, student and subject. But when you click on get student, get subject, we don't see the corresponding student or the subject alongside with it. So we need to add the student subject. So let's add student subject. Remember we have student ID of 1, subject ID of 1. Remember, that's the English language. Let's execute this. And now you're going to have save, because you're going to save to the table. Let's wait and see. If you have save, let's have student ID of 1 again. Then subject ID of 2. The same student is offering 2 again. Subject offering French. The third one is Arabic. Now the fourth one is French also. So we have it set. Now if I pass in here as 5, let's see. Do we have 5 in here? Because we have an error, because the foreign key that we do not have 5 in the subject, as you can see from here. Okay. Now let's see, we have student ID of 2, and this person can perform 4, subject ID of 4, that is an Arabic. We can just find the subject and see. Okay, so get subject. Okay, so we need to have this. We have this cyclic error. We need to work on this for the subject. So let's quickly work on that. Then we come back again. This is very important. So from the subject end here, we have to use JSON ignore. Yes. And now this has to, from the subject, get subjects. Try this out and execute this. Yes, so you can see we have science, English, French, and Arabic, right? So here we are adding again student ID of 2 is having 3. So let's see, student ID of 3 is having subject ID of 1, that is science. It's also having Arabic, that is 4, because it's coming from this, and it's also having French, that's 3. Then the last student, that is the fourth student, is having only English, that is 2. Click on save. Okay, so now we are done. Let's go to the student. So from the student, we can get all subjects in here. Now let's go to the student and check it out. So try this out, get all students. We have cyclic error, and we have to also do this. I think we can manage this in the service, in the program.cs to skip all this. But for now, let's copy this. Let's also put it on top of the student. Save this, and this also solved. Now let's get student, get execute, and I can see here we have the student, and when you check the student and subject, where's the subject? Then we have subject 2. So that's what we provided. Now let's go to get student and subject together. So let's see, execute this, and now check it out. You can see you have student info here. The ID is 1. The name is Frederick, as you can see from this, right? We have student ID of 1. The subject that is offering is French, is science. Subject ID is 1. That's Frederick. When you go to the next one, student ID of John, offering the subject ID of 3, that is science. And that is 1. When you go to student ID of 1, Frederick, offering the subject of what? English language. So student ID of 1, check it out. Student ID of 1, Frederick. Frederick is offering what? Science here. Frederick is offering English here again. That's the ID of 1, English again. And the same person here, Frederick, is offering French. You see that? Now when you go to student ID of 4, that is James, offering English. Student ID of 4, James offering English. Check it out. Student ID, this is subject ID. You want to find student ID, this is 3. So student ID of 3, subject ID of 4. Okay, so this is offering only 1. When you go to student ID of 3, that is John Doe, is offering French. The same person here, student ID of 3, you see, is also offering Arabic. So you can see that many relationships have been established in here. And now we can have access to this. We can delete the record, we can update, you can modify, you can do a whole lot of things to it using the Fluent API. So this is more flexible than using conventions and navigation property. Alright, I hope this is clear. Yeah, I want to end here. Thank you so much for watching. I believe you've learned something new today. And yeah, I'm also happy to see that. Alright, in the next video, we're going to talk about something that you're going to love it. So then stay tuned. And don't forget to subscribe as well. And I like this video too. Take care of yourself. And I'm going to catch you up in the next video.